we just acquired it, just what George says is. George, what happened tonight and why is it so important?
One of the big things dividing the median income countries like China and India and the rich countries like the United Kingdom is that we've outsourced a lot of our emissions to them. So, in other words, a lot of the things we buy are manufactured in countries like China and India, and they have to take responsibility for the emissions produced in the manufacturing of those goods. And they say that's terribly unfair, that those emissions should belong to us rather than to them and should be part of our national inventories. If that were the case, it would make a huge difference to our assessment of where we stand, because the British government says we've made 16% cuts in greenhouse gas emissions since 2000, but if you were to include those outsourced emissions, then actually we would have made a 19% rise in emissions since 2000. It's a completely different story. Now, this is government policy, British government policy, to say that there's no way we're giving up on the principle of production emissions rather than consumption emissions. In other words, that only the emissions produced within our own shores are going to count towards our national inventory. And the Chinese at the moment are saying, well, we're not going to give up on the idea that it should be consumption emissions. And what Stern did tonight, and I've never heard him do it before, and in fact I've never heard anybody else say it before, was to break with British government policy and suggest a compromise position that we should meet China and India and the other manufacturing nations halfway. Now, that's dramatic in terms of a senior figure like him making such a suggestion, but it's also dramatic in that it could potentially be a game-saving compromise which might actually greatly change what happens at Copenhagen.